محفوظ.
But here you have, you have tanween also, kasra.
Yeah.
So it will be a little bit lighter, right? Then
No, because if we stop,
then
this is irrelevant, and it just becomes a sukun.
but the sound also changes, right?
The sound would only change if we continued. If we stop, it's just a sukun.
How does it sound when you continue?
Yeah,
Well, this is the end of the surah,
Then
so it would be في لوح محفوظ بسم الله, right? But for all intents and purposes, you're not going to do that because this is the end of the surah. But if you want to join it, it would be لوح محفوظ بسم الله, and it would be tanween to the ba, it'd be iqlab, like that.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, when you're doing, like, mahfood, when do you, like, switch from, like, the ba is thin, but, like, the do is thick, like...
Yeah.
When
Mahfood. Mahfood.
Like,
Yeah.
food, like,
Exactly. Food.
like, during the wa.
Yeah.
You can extend the wow pretty much.
Yeah, so this becomes, so when we stop here,
so you can
we haven't done mud yet.
adjust.
We haven't done the mud yet. But so this becomes a mud عارض للسكون. We didn't do muds yet. But this becomes a temporary mud. It's a عارض للسكون. It's a mud based on a temporary sukun. Okay, and that you have the option of making it 2 beats, 4 or 5 beats, or 6 beats. So you can say في لوح محفوظ, right? Or the typical thing in salah is في لوح محفوظ, about 4. But if you want to do it like in tarawih, you can say في لوح محفوظ. You can do that as well, and they're all correct. But you just have to stay consistent for each of them. That's again another lesson though. Right? Questions? Okay. Yeah. فلينظر.
فلينظر.
Yeah. فلينظر.
فلينظر.
ظر. Good. And if we want to say, to mix them up, yeah, زرتم المقابر like the whole thing. But so the question I'm pointing is the za. حتى زر. حتى زر.
حتى زور.
Yeah, زرتم. Right. Good? Is that clear?
If you're doing, like, zor, your tongue goes from, like, here all the way up to, like...
Zor. Yeah.
Zor.
Yeah.
Zor.
It's all about the movement of the tongue. So it's from, this is going to be from the bottom teeth, right? Zor, zor. And the tongue moves. حتى زرتم. Good. Good. So that's good actually. So that's enough on the tongue. And then the last thing that we're going to do before we do ikhfa, and I think we might even take ikhfa next week, is we're going to go over the thick and thin letters, because that's all going to lead up to ikhfa. That's all going to be important when we study ikhfa. Okay? So we said that there's letters of isti'la. What's isti'la?
Going outside.
Raising, right?
Raising.
What does that mean though in terms of tajweed? What's being raised?
It comes with a madda up there? Is that what it is? No. it's
No,
not
so-
with madda? No.
So isti'la, it's saying that the back of the tongue is raised. Okay? So these are going to be thick letters. Okay, so what are the letters of isti'la? You remember the mnemonic form?
Maybe something really heavy.
Huh? Anyone remember? No?
In order? Or just like-
In order, yeah. خص ضغط قل. Right? خص ضغط قل. So we have, the letters are,
Oh, yeah.
no, there's no order.
Qaf,
Yeah. خص ضاد
Qaf,
Rain, qaf, qaf, dha.
طن قاف and then ضاء. So these letters just sound thick. Right? All of it. خص ضغط قل.
Oh, dha.
خص ضغط قل.
خص الضغط
قل.
Qil.
Right? We're going to apply tajweed rules to this. Right? قل.
Qil.
Okay, so that's a lot. Now, what's the relevance of this in what we're studying now? And thickness and thinness, tafkhim and tarqiq, is that these letters of isti'la are the thick letters. These letters will always be thick. Okay? These letters will always be thick. Okay? In the middle, so this is going to be the always thick category. These letters will always be pronounced with tafkhim. These letters will always be mufakham. Okay? These are all the same things, interchangeable terms for what I'm saying. Now, in the middle, okay, this is the always thick. Okay. This is going to be the depends category. Okay? Depends category or what?
Alif, Lam, Ra, and Una.
Okay, so lam and la first of all. Okay? Lam, it's gonna be thick and thin depending on, we'll take it next week. Depending on what? Depending on the lam in, say, for example, the lafzul jalala, we say Allah. Right? Versus if it's a lam somewhere else, we'd say li. Right? We'd say li. Or even if it's in the lafzul jalala and it's preceded by kasra, we'd say bismillah. We wouldn't say bismillah. We'd say bismillah. So this is one that it depends. Now ra, similar, same thing, right? We say ra or ru, but then we also say ri. We say akhirah, akhirah. And then we'll say rihun, rihun. So this also depends on the letter, whether it's a fatha or kasra, it depends on what comes before it. We'd say, bir. We'd say bir when there's a kasra before it. But sometimes when there's a kasra before it, we make it thick and we say irsad. We don't say irsad. So there's a lot of rules. Okay? So lam and la. Then we have the alif. Okay? And the alif is basically taking the letter before it. So when we have the letter kha in khalidina, right? It's looking at specifically at this alif. And whatever comes before it, if it's thick, the alif becomes thick. Okay? And if it's thin, like in dhalika, it would be thin. Right? Or in anywhere else, if we say nabata, that alif there is going to be ta. It's not going to be nabata or something. Right? It's just common sense, basically. The alif has to be whatever comes before it. The last one was the ghunna. The ghunna is going to depend on what comes after it. And that's why I want to teach it now. Because in ikhfa, sometimes we're going to be saying min salsalin. And that's going to be thick because the sad comes after it. And in some cases we're going to be saying min teen. Okay? And that's going to be thin. So it just depends. So that's the it depends category. So what's left? What's left?
Hamza,
which is everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're not going to go through it, right? Because this is going to be everything else. It's going to be what? What's everything else going to be? Thin. All the time. Okay? Everything else is going to be thin all the time. Including ta, including jim, including, ya, including all of these letters. They're going to be always thin. Okay, so what does that mean practically? It means that you're going to move your tongue a lot. How do we make something thin? Smile. Okay, so isti'la, the back of your tongue can't be raised if you're smiling. Okay, the back of your tongue won't be raised. It won't be raised if you're smiling. Okay, so this is, if it's raised, it'll be thick, and if it's smiling, it'll be thin. So we'll take a few words.
So that's like ha.
Kha. Yeah.
Ha.
Ha is what? Where does it fall? So two things you have to know. You have to know several things. But you have to know, where does the ha originate from? And then, is it thick or thin?
It's cavity.
Ha. Ha is from the cavity. Ha is from the throat, the middle of the throat. So again, the difference.
So ha is, it's a, how do you don't say ha.
You say ha.
Ha.
Yeah.
So it's considered thin.
It's considered thin, yeah. فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. Hawiyah. We don't say hawiyah, right? We say ha. If it were to be thick, we would say hawiyah. We just don't do that. It doesn't even sound right? And so it's hawiyah. So the ha you were asking. So in alhamdu, when ha has a fatha, we don't say alhamdu. We say alhamdu. Ha. And you're still kind of smiling, even with the fatha, you're smiling. Alhamdu. So, some examples of words that are a little challenging in terms of their correctly pronouncing thickness and thinness. So the first one we'll take is in Surah Fatiha. We say, okay, so first I want someone to tell me what's thick, what's thin. Just run through it.
Yeah, thick.
La is thick, yeah.
Yeah, thick.
Yeah,
Thin.
thin.
Right.
Thin.
Oh yeah.
Huh? La is going to be thin, yeah.
Lamb is thin.
Yeah,
Beam is thin.
yeah.
Lane
Thick.
thick.
La,
Thick.
yeah.
Thin.
Okay, so what you have to do is you literally have to go, okay, like that. So there's different dimensions. I said in the beginning, one dimension is knowing where to start the pronunciation from. One dimension is correctly moving your tongue. So it's lai. Look, I start off with thick, gha, and then the ya is going to be thin, so I'm going to open my mouth. So I'm going to say, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ. Right? So this is an exercise in moving your mouth. And you can look, there's two ways. You can look purely at someone reciting without actually listening to them and know whether they're doing it correctly or not. Just by how they move their tongue. Right? So غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ. Yeah. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ. Yeah. So you're smiling everywhere except for the ghain and the da. Okay? You're smiling on the whole thing except on these letters. So I say غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ. Yeah, dubi. Yeah, and the hardest ones are going to be when you're transitioning, right? So to go from ma to ghain, dubi. It's not mul. The most common mistakes are going to be here.